So we'll get started. Good morning. Welcome to the Council Committee of the Whole meeting. We're here this morning, September 10th, to discuss the 2020 Community Group Funding Grant Allocations. I think we have a team at our presenters table that are going to intro the report for us. Karen and Katie, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Given. And rest of council, good morning. So in front of you have a report where we're recommending that, and we have an attachment in our report with recommendations for 2020 community group funding allocations, which is Appendix B. So this is year 2 of community group funding from the 2018 grant application process, which you're familiar with. The grant allocations, just in high-level summary from 2019, the total cash grants that were given was $4.3 roughly million. The 2020 grant recommendations, and this will take a bit of explaining, so if you could just be patient. There's a lot of work that's gone into this since meeting with you last around this from administration side. So the grant recommendations for 2020 is $3.5 million, just a little bit more than that. So since we met with you this spring to do the 2019 review and talk about the process, we've worked with finance very closely from our insurance perspective, from our, as well as legislative services from contractual perspective, and actually dug into a number of contracts that we have with community groups. And the outcome of that was 6 groups that were previously identified as receiving cash grants through the application process have now been moved, right? They were identified as operational items within the city and moved to operational departmental budgets. In addition, the Disabled Transportation Society has also been, the budget for that has been moved to the transit department for operational. So those are the changes high level between what you saw for 2019 allocations and what's been recommended for 2020. There was also 3 budgets that were allocated where the budgets themselves were cut altogether because through the work that we've done with finance this spring, we realized that there was some duplication and some grants with contracts had actually expired, so new grants came into the process where the grants were removed from the contract. So there was some efficiencies that happened and some better processes on administrative side with community groups. We also have been working quite a bit on council's request for documentation around gift in kind. So you'll see in Appendix A, we've documented the 2019 community group funding allocations. We provided the summary sheet with you. In addition to this, on our end, we actually have a worksheet for each one of these groups identified with the calculations, the details behind it to support the summary that is being presented to council. So the summary of the community group funding city support is that in 2019, the total operational funding paid to organizations was $4,174,695. And that included, cash grants, as well as direct payment for contracts for utilities that are part of agreements, as well as some insurance that's also paid in there, and that's broken down for you. The second piece of this is gift in kind funding. So the total gift in kind funding for 2019 was $3,310,603. This is the start of our project, but what we were able to capture was lease agreements, so gift in kind for space, utilities within our agreements, insurance, facility maintenance. So if these are city buildings, how much is the city's corporate facility department paying or doing to support the buildings, as well as municipal tax exemption. So that covers that $3.3 million. And there was one capital grant that was given in the amount of $85,000. So the total operational capital and gift in kind funding for community groups in 2019 was $7,570,298. So that's a lot to take in, and you will see more of this in the future to greater extent. So at this time, I guess administration is recommending that council approve the 2020 community grant allocations as presented in Appendix B.
Okay, thanks very much. Maybe we'll start if there are any questions for administration before we move into any motions arising. Any questions for administration on the recommendation, the process, or any of the details that are contained in the report? Councillor Bressie.
Thank you. Thanks for the work on this. I really like that we've got a lot better information about where money's going and where resources are going this year than we did a while ago. And I know that at the same time, it's still very much a work in process in terms of figuring out what do allocations look like after this year. And I know we're kind of in a transition time still. Can you just give me a little bit of an idea of how things are going for shaping the process that we're going to be using next budgeting year and what this might look like when we're having this conversation next?
Sure. Thank you through the mayor. So Katie and I, and actually Director Arlen, have met with a few groups. So there was, we've met with, I guess, the cultural group. There's one in town where the executive directors from the Art Gallery present, the Center of Creative Arts, and the Archives group as well. We accept an invitation to the Executive Directors Network group and met with them back in July to gain feedback from them on their experience with their process, suggestions around the process. So we're continuing to, gauge, get some input from community groups, as well as we've extended some research from the policy and procedure perspective to what other municipalities are doing from a comparison process. Thank you to the city clerk's resource that she rolled out, the box of docs that we're using. So it's a great tool. We've been able to really realize some efficiencies through the use of that technology. So we're doing that as well. So over the winter, you will see more engagement from the group once we have an engagement strategy in place with communications to roll this out. The intent, from our perspective, is to ensure that whatever changes come before council, come before the community, well before the application process next year. One obvious thing has come out from all the groups, I want to say, is, a more timely process, a more extended process, so that we're not in the middle of their seasonal time when things are very busy. So, respecting that and hearing their concerns and how a better way to do it may look. So we're listening, we're taking lots of notes, and you'll see something over the winter months come forward. You're welcome.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Councillor Bressie. Any other questions for administration on the report? I had one. There's one organization that actually has the recommended amount on Appendix B. It's actually in excess of what they requested. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Given, and I'm not surprised that you caught that. So I believe that, and we look back through the summary requests and the applications, and I believe that is just a calculation error with spreadsheets. So okay. Bringing it forward, it actually should have been, the recommendation should have been $14,000. So it's a couple $1,000 less. So thank you for bringing that forward and catching it.
So the recommendation then is $14,000?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Any other questions for administration? I don't see anybody else in the queue with questions, so then we can move on to business arising and any motions arising. Council, it's up to you how we want to handle this. Management has a recommendation, and we can accept that or move that, I guess. or we can move specifics if there are changes in there. I don't think with the number of items that there are here, I don't think we'd have one motion for the entire thing and then a whole bunch of amendments on that motion. I think we need to actually, if council wishes to make any specific changes, I think we need to do individual motions to amend Appendix B by reflecting X or Y. And then once we've done any amendments that we might wish to do, then a final motion to recommend Appendix B as amended. Okay. I see Councillor Bressie in the queue.
Hey, Mayor, given my apologies, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. And I'm realizing that I'm operating off an assumption that I think I know what's going on, but I don't want to be assuming I'm knowing what's going on. So a couple of groups the groups that got removed, I think I know which groups those are by memory, but can you just make sure I know which groups those are?
Thank you, through the mayor. So, so some of the things that were removed that were previously reported as grant funding was the kiosk for the Grande Prairie and Area Safe Communities Committee. So that was recognized as an operational decision to basically lease a space there. So it's an operating expense. The second one was the Elks Hall. So the city pays for the use of the parking lot in the amount of $12,500. So that's again an operational item and not a request from that group specifically. The third one is the VIC, so the Visitor Information Center contract with economic development. So this agreement is for service and not a cash grant. The fourth one, am I going too fast? Okay. The fourth one is the contract with the Grande Prairie Regional Tourism Association for $19,579. This grant, or this amount, is actually recognized as an operating agreement for the Visitor Information Center at Center 2000. So again, it's not a grant they apply for. Center 2000, so previously we had reported under the VIC lease an amount that supports, it was roughly $31,000. And that is within the agreement for the operation of the Center 2000 for overture of operating expenses for the Chamber of Commerce. What number am I on? 6. So DTS, $615,750 moved to operating budget. And the last one that just recently came up, and I'm not sure if this came in front of council yet, was the Grande Prairie Regional Innovation Network for the amount of $19,240. Economic Development brought forward a memorandum of understanding for this membership. So it was reviewed internally and agreed that that should be an operational budget. You're welcome.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Again, I'm asking if there are any motions arising. Somebody's going to have to start, and if there aren't specifics, then we can do the overall entire sheet. Councillor O'Toole. Okay. Okay. So Councillor O'Toole is making a motion to the council approve the allocations as presented in the appendix. I think just with that one correction that administration noted in terms of the typo, where the number should be 14,000 rather than 17,320. That's open for discussion and debate. I don't see anybody in the queue for discussion and debate. Then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Okay, that's 6. Okay. And that motion carries. Was there any other business for our committee meeting this morning? No? Then we're adjourned.